finally, a week to remember. Okay, we're finally at the end of the road. Let's move this. So just to recap, we have gone through our 3 to 5 year plan, our 1 year goal, our 4 quarters, and now we're on. Oh, hold on. I first started wrong. 4 quarters. Now we're on the first quarter, first month. And now we're on the first week. So we're getting to where we're about to take some action. We're finally getting done with the information gathering stage, you might want to call it. Dang, I was supposed to do that. I do have a little bit of a sinus issue this morning, which is unfortunate, but I have to get this done. So now we're working on our weekly and daily goals. And I tie these in together because I think they work pretty close hand in hand, okay? So going forward, I want you to think of each day as an individual input. So you have a set things that we're getting done each day, and those 7 days add up to the week, which the weekly goals are our output. So you have your weekly goals, and then we need to have the inputs from our daily that add up to the weekly. Now, let's say you have 3 things you need to get done this week for that one goal. All right, so say goal 1. Goal 1. Okay? Looking at the week, we have 7 days or 7 inputs that we can spread out and do these 3 things. Structurally, working on getting one task done at a time all the way through is going to be better than working on all 3 at different times during the day, which is why I like to look at daily things as inputs and just one input rather than let me do a little bit of each thing every day, right? Because likelihood is each goal that you need to get done for the week and for the month, you're going to have to do multiple things, but there's certain things that are going to be holding you back, right? So if we're trying to tackle multiple in one day, maybe you're spending 1 hour a day on each of these, right, after work or before work, whatever, then you have 3 hours being tackled on to 3 things. Whereas if we learn to focus those 3 hours just on one task, we could probably get that task done and move ourselves further depending on what task you're doing. So then you have to have task management, right? So which tasks are more important? But before we get to that point, many people try to use ADHD as an excuse for not being able to focus long enough. Now, to a degree, sure, but you're also much more capable of focusing, in my opinion. I am not diagnosed with ADHD. I do have dyslexia, and I write. It's not something that holds you back. You see what I'm saying? It's all about how you look at it. So, even if you do have ADHD, there are certain things that you can hyperfixate on. At least everyone that I've met is able to hyperfixate on some things, and some people think I'm ADHD, but again, it's to me, it's a label, it doesn't matter, okay? Just do something with your nutrition. But anyways, I digress. So when it comes to ADHD, likelihood is there are certain things that you can focus on for hours straight at a time. What I want you to do is look back at those things and understand why you were able to stay fixated on those things for so long, right? What kind of attention grabbing structure did it have that kept you enticed? And then now you'll all of a sudden figure out, oh, hey, I can stay focused. It just has to grab my attention. The only thing that sucks is we're in a world now where it's really hard to stay focused on one thing for a long period of time because no one practices it, and we're always on our phones with shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok, whatever. So a lot of us don't know how to focus for longer than 5 minutes straight. Okay? So, excuse me. This means the hardest part for you is probably going to be, or for me, which I've worked a really long time on this and I still suck at it, right? Is focusing for long periods of time. And that's when you get to that point where you're like, I can't do this anymore. You just have to sit there and force yourself to sit there longer until you do a little bit more. And over time, what I've done is just added a little bit more onto how long I focus at a time and take less and less breaks. And the more you're conscious of it, the easier it is to recognize each of those moments and just sit through them, right? So, ADHD is not an excuse. So get that out of here, right? Dyslexia is not an excuse for me writing or me not writing, right? I'm writing a book, but I have dyslexia. I just have to go back through it multiple times, right? Just put the effort in. It's worth it in the end, right? So, now that we have that out of the way, excuse me. How do we decide what specific things we are going to work on? Great question. There's a couple of different methods that you can use. The one that I use is something called bottlenecking, or just the bottleneck. And I'm going to make a separate video specifically around this topic. But long story short, it basically means out of all the things that we could do, there's one specifically that's going to move us really far ahead or keep us from moving ahead. So which is the limiting factor, right? And when you're putting down all of the things that you're working on, or all the things you could do, this is why I like looking at our weeks in terms of daily inputs, right? What task for sure would hold you back if you didn't do it? So if we have, in my case, content creation, which one would hold me back? Creating the content or posting? Right. And this is a really simple demonstration, but if I post content first, but I don't have content to post, then which one's my bottleneck? Creating the content, because I can't post content unless I have the content created, but I can create the content without posting it. Right. I keep saying right, I'm sorry. When it comes to creating, I can create content all day and never post it. So then at that point, posting would be the bottleneck because I have an overflow of creating it. So then posting becomes my bottleneck. Just depends on the context. So if you are working on a project or building a business, you have the brand and then the product. And this is where I've gotten mixed up a lot, right? What I used to do was I would make the brand without the product. The brand doesn't really matter until you get traction, right? So I was making the brand as if there was traction, but I had no product to sell, which means My bottleneck was the product, not the brand. And that's where I would get stuck. Right. So, the idea around bottlenecking is find the one thing that for sure would hold you back and tackle that one thing. So we have the week, and then we have day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you want to take the weekends off, be my guest. It's a lot easier when you're not working to make more progress, because on a day that you're off, you can do like 3 or 4 things, whereas the day that you're working, you have those 8 hours of nothing because you're at work. Unless you're working on your job and the inputs are going straight to your job, right? Or a business. So, odds are you have a job, which takes up 8 hours a day, and then you sleep 8 hours a day. So you already have 16 hours out of your day, which means you have 6 or 8. 8 hours before and after. You have to eat, shower. If you have kids, you have kids, whatever, right? So realistically, you have probably like 6 hours or 5 hours or maybe even 4 hours to spread out throughout the entire week to work on one thing. Now, ideally, especially if you're working on your focusing, that 4-hour time period is good enough to get you through one task. So if you take day 1 and you tackle one specific goal, you got a check mark. So that's one bottleneck. Now you move to the next bottleneck. What is the next bottleneck? You can sit that. What I like to do is sit down the night before and write out what I want to do the next day. Right? It makes it a lot easier because you're fresh. You're not really fresh at the end of the day, but you're fresh on what has happened that day. And it's a lot easier to look back on the day of, and figure out what you did good, and then figure out what you want to do the next day, right? So then you have the next day planned out. You have your hours, whatever, and you do your work. Then you come home and you tackle the next bottleneck, right? And then you do the same thing all the way through to 7, and we'll say 3, you're on. 4, we'll say is the weekend, since I didn't specify. So 4 and 5 are the weekend if you're off on weekends, right? But whatever days you're off, now you're able to do 1, 2, 3 times the work on both of those off days, and probably still even have more time to yourself, or off, as you might want to say. So now you're getting 6 things done, bottleneck wise, right? So these are 3 things that for sure would hold you back if you didn't do them. You did those 3 things. You did those 3 things on 4 and 5, and then you have another bottleneck here on 6, and here on 7. So by the end of the week, you've tackled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11 things that for sure would hold you back in your goals, which means you have 11 opportunities to put yourself forward in life. Now, if we did it the same thing, the same structure, whatever, 7 days a week, right? I'm just going to do like a half graph. And you did a little bit of here, a little bit of this goal, a little bit of this goal, a little bit of this goal, and you made like a quarter of the progress. For one, you're switching back and forth, which takes more brain power over long periods of time. But then you're doing that throughout the week, and you're having no mini wins, nothing to keep your dopamine from completely depleting. And odds are these aren't going to be the same as those, because this one, in the first graph, not even graph, but in the first week, right, you're finishing one thing all the way through, then going to the next one, finishing it all the way through, then going to the next one. So you're tackling the most important pieces one at a time as you go through the week. Whereas here, you're working on 3 different things. Odds are, if you got one of those things done, you wouldn't even need to do the other 2 things, because if you're working on 3 things, you're not bottlenecking correctly, right? Because one of those 3 things is way more important than the other 2. And you just have to sit down and figure out what those things are. So now you're working on 3 things, and 2 of them could be completely useless, which this is what I did all the time with last year, right? I got almost nothing done, but I felt like I was busy all the time. And you don't have to feel busy all the time to actually make progress. Most of this stuff is just things that we avoid by not canceling out the most important thing and doing that. So the second one is what I did all of last year almost until like November, December. This is what I do now, and I've made 3 or 4 times the progress doing this, the first one, rather than tackling little bits and pieces every day. Okay? So when it comes to bottlenecking, very important. Or at least have some sort of structure where it allows you to do more focused work longer. So yeah, if you can do that, again, you're putting yourself way further ahead in a much shorter period of time because you're able to focus on one specific thing, get it done, then move to the next. And it's even with school. The way that I look at school, if you're in school or doing some sort of course, what I've always done is I tackle one thing at a time, get it done, and then move to the next class. Get it done, and then move to the next class, depending on due dates, right? Because you could have to go on due dates with this. So if you have a 3-day due date, a 4-day due date, a 5-day due date, whatever, then I would tackle the shorter one first, get it done, tackle the next one, get it done, tackle the next one, get it done. And it just lets you get things done a lot faster, a lot less stressed. So if you can do that and learn to focus really well, you can make a lot more progress a lot faster. And by all means, that is my favorite thing to do. Make more progress faster. So outside of this, I do have one more bonus thing that I'm going to put onto this little mini series, but that will probably be tomorrow or the next day. So till then, set up some bottlenecks and tackle your goals. And I'll see you next time.